good morning, welcome to TriStar Digging. Appreciate you watching today. Some days, I don't know how to say this, except to say some days you're the windshield, some days you're the bug. Today I'm the bug. Taking a load of rock down to a job I've been working on for a while. I've had a lot of issues, breakdowns, and troubles at that job. And had an alternator go bad. Got a new alternator. The alternator didn't work, so I had to take the new alternator off, get the old one repaired, put it on. I had an air conditioner line blow on that. I don't know, I just had a lot of issues going on with this particular job for some reason. The work's going fine, it's just all the problems I'm having. So today I took a load of rock down there, and as I was pulling in the driveway, this tire blew out, and you see that crack right there. Well, I get it home and I get it up on a block, back the other wheel up on a block, so I lock the air brakes down so it won't move. And when I moved it, I saw a little pile of oil right here and thought, well, I wonder what that's coming from. So it doesn't take long to a genius to figure that out. It's coming from somewhere in there. I guess the axle seal's blown out or something, but I've got oil all over the place under here. Brake linings are just soaked with oil. So what do? I guess you just keep going. So anyway, we'll get this wheel tire yanked off, take it over to Athens, and they said they could have one in by noon. And I really wouldn't want to take that inner wheel off. I thought I could just take the outer wheel off, get it fixed, put the outer wheel back on, take off again, but I don't know what we got. Well, let's figure it out anyway. Socket, it's not deep enough for one. Wow. All right, so my 1.5-inch socket's not gonna work. Needs to be a deep well impact, and I called a couple of auto parts stores and nobody has one. And I thought about a bunch of tools I bought at a kind of an estate sale over at a little farm that I have. So I'm gonna run over there and see if I can find one in that, all that stuff that I bought. Stay tuned, it's gonna get interesting today. Well, we got a circus going on in here. Brought Diesel with me, and to go see if I can find that socket. He's enjoying hanging out in the window. So when I was going to get the socket, they called about Ella. Said the groomer said that Ella was ready to pick up. So now we got Ella and Diesel in the truck, and Ella doesn't really care a whole lot for Diesel, but they're getting along somewhat good today, so that works out. But we're still going to get that socket. Stay tuned. Well, Ella has finally decided to lay down, take her a nap, and we got Diesel still hanging out the window. But we're pulling into a little farm that we bought probably 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago now. It's an old chicken farm, and these 2 chicken houses have been shut down for a while. But it's got a basement there that's been built. Gosh, ain't no telling how long that basement's been built there. The people never did get a house built on it, but it's there ready to have a house built on it. Got a little 2-car garage there. Primarily these 2 chicken houses I'm using for storage, and they work out good for that. And then my plan was, when I bought this, was to set it up for the excavation business and move all my equipment over here and turn one of these buildings barns into a shop. And that was my plan, but I just hadn't got around to that yet. Maybe one day I will. But I plan on making a shop out of that building right there. That used to be a chicken compost barn, and it had stalls in it, a place to store shavings and chicken litter and whatever, but I tore all the stalls out, and now it's kind of getting full of junk. But my plan is to close this in and make a shop out of it at some point. And the key words there is at some point, so I don't know. We'll look at that. we'll drive up this hill here and pull in this chicken house. Let's see if we can find us a socket. I'm about stuck. Yeah, welcome to the chicken house. As you can see, it's pretty good storage. I've got stuff everywhere in here, but I'm thinking maybe there's some big sockets here. 1.25 inches, 1.25 inches, 1.25 inches. Adapter. No luck on that drawer. I was pretty sure that somewhere there was a bunch more sockets. Well, I've looked around everywhere and I can't find any more sockets. I thought there was a bunch of sockets in that stuff that I bought. I found a lot of 1.25 inch sockets in that pile of stuff, but no 1.5 inch. So I don't know. I may be going to maybe going to Harbor Freight and see what I can find. All right, so I called a neighbor, and he's got dump trucks and equipment, and he actually had some sockets. So that's gonna work. We're gonna be able to get this off now, hopefully. And also, fortunately, there was a mobile diesel mechanic, heavy equipment mechanic there working on their trucks. So he's gonna come up and look at this axle seal when he gets down there in a couple hours. So maybe things are going in the right direction now.
Oh, come on.
Wow, day just keeps getting better. Just keeps getting better. Just in case you're wondering, they are reverse threads, and I stripped one. I got that wheel off. Now let's get it loaded up and get it over to Athens. By the time I get that to Athens and get back home, hopefully that mechanic will be close to coming or already here. So let's get that started. Got back from Athens and got the tire put on the wheel there over at C&D Tire in Athens, and man, they did a jam up job for me today. I'd called this morning when I got home, and the salesman there said they didn't have that tire in stock, but they thought they could get it. And but anyway, so he said be here at 12. It'd be on the 12 o'clock truck, and sure enough, when I got there about 15 after 12, tire was there, and told the lady there up front that I'd come back and get it just as quick as I got it fixed. And she said, well, just hold on just a few minutes and it'll be ready. So they got it knocked out real quick while I was there, and got back home with it. And we'll get this tire out and wait on Lucas to get here. Down. Stay. You get that ball. You want to get that ball? Now look. Get ball. Get ball. Damn. Stay. That'll do. Get ball. All right, well, mechanic made it over here just now. It's Lucas, and I just met Lucas there just a while ago at a friend's house, over at a neighbor's house, and he was working on a dump truck, well, actually a semi truck over there, working on the exhaust. But he was very willing to come help me out with this axle seal. So he's here now working on that, and turns out just in a few minutes talking to Lucas, found out he's a Christian. He's also a preacher, so I might talk him into, there he is, I might talk him into giving us a little message here in just a minute, like we do on this channel. We'll see what he does, though. We're gonna watch him work here while he's fixing this axle.
Well, this is the first time I've ever been filmed, but I guess I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing. I caged the brake chamber off. We could have released the brakes, you know, but I didn't want to, you know, take a chance of the truck rolling. This is just as easy. I can adjust the brakes when we go back and all that, and not have to fool with a bunch of stuff. But right now I'm going to back the cyc adjuster off, because there's always a lip on the inside of the drum, and it'll catch on the brake shoe. So we're going to back that off so we can take the brake drum out of the way.
Well, folks, if you'll look, we got a mess in there. That axle seal has, man, it's gummed up everything in there. So where's the problem at? Back in the hub here?
Yeah, the problem's in the back of the hub, which you can see it's spinning separate from the...
Oh, okay. I was over at that guy's house a while ago when I was talking to Luke. He was working on that truck. He started telling me how this thing breaks apart. Thought I was going to try it myself, but then when he started talking about removing the axle, that's whenever I said, are you going to be available here in just a little while? So he's here and got it going his way now. Because not everybody's got one of those big nuts right there to take an axle off with.
Yeah, it's a 4-inch socket. I don't know if you can see here. I like this style the best. When you put that socket on it, it mashes these little keepers down, which locks inside this ring. There's a little tab here that fits in a little groove. It's right on top, if you can see it there. The older style had 2 nuts. It had a nut inside and then a little plate that had some tabs on it and a jam nut, and you had to bend those over the outside nut. This is a newer style, and to me it's so much better. You'll also, when you take this apart, of course we'll clean this up better, but you want to inspect all these rollers, see if there's any pitting involved. You also want to look at the races that these rollers run on. If you see any pitting or any major discoloration, it should be a smooth, shiny color, almost like a chrome. If there's any major discoloration or pitting, you want to replace these. I hammer like lightning. I never hit the same place twice. These seals, they can be stuck on pretty good. Plus the inner bearing race will be slid up on here, so it takes a little doing to get it apart sometimes. This stuff's pretty tough, so if you need to hit it with a hammer, don't be too worried about it. Let's shift our focus over here. I'm going to lay this rag inside this drum, and this works as a pretty good work platform. I'm going to turn this hub over. I'm going to use that rag so that we don't get this bearing nasty when we knock it out. I'm going to catch this inner race and use this bearing to drive this seal out. And be careful and you'll want to catch this race here and not hit this cage, because if you bend this cage up, it can rub against one of the rollers. Alternate back and forth a few times. Like I said, these parts are big, and it does take a little bit of doing to get it apart. Well, here's the problem, is this seal. There's our bearing. Like I said, we caught it with a rag. This is also a newer design, which is a very good design. This seal actually seals inside of itself. I don't know if you can see, of course it's very nasty, but this seal runs inside of itself. So this part seals, again, the axle housing. This outside drives in the back of the hub, and the actual sealing is inside the seal itself. So back in the day, this lip would wire out the axle tube here, and you'd have to put what they call a speedy sleeve or a repair sleeve to repair that groove to get a good seal. But you'll never wire your housing out with this style seal.
From Athens and picked up the seal, which Lucas is putting on in the hub here in just a second. And then we also those shoes, brake shoes on that were so bad saturated, and they were actually a little thin too, so we picked up a new set of brake shoes we're going to put on it. But Lucas is going to put this seal in.
All right, we went ahead and dropped the rear bearing in here. Don't forget that. I can't say that I've never, but you'll usually only do it once, because you got to take the seal back out and put it in there. You'll remember it next time, but try to learn from my mistakes, and you won't have to make so many yourself. This seal is marked bearing side on the inside of it. I don't know if maybe you can see in there, it says bearing side anyways. So just make sure, you know, it does have to be turned a certain direction. pay a little attention when you're putting it in. Make sure that you don't get it off to one side. You know, look and make sure it's kind of going in even. Alright, I don't know if you heard that sound change there. You hear it's got a little ring to it. That means that it's bottomed out. It's as far in as it goes. Alright, we're going to slide this up on here. I like to go ahead and stick the front bearing in. Kind of holds it straight. Which this one slid on far enough that we can go ahead and start the nuts. Sometimes they don't go on far enough. If we've got a block of wood here, you can put a block of wood on the end of it, bump it with a hammer, and get it up far enough to get your nut started. But fortunately this time, we don't have to do that. So this nut, of course I showed earlier, it's got a little groove or a little tab that goes in a groove. You'll have to get that started. Put this socket on this nut to mash these tabs down. You can't turn it by hand with those tabs locked. So I'm going to spin this in a ways and then I'll get the ratchet and tighten it up.
What's that gear behind there that's got some kind of a...
That's a tone ring for the anti-lock brakes, wheel speed sensor.
Okay.
I like to tighten these up pretty tight to begin with to seat the bearings. As you can see, you just barely can turn it just to make sure that there's no slack in the bearings. Then I'll loosen it up. You see it spins freely now. And there's actually a torque spec on these, but I don't know, after you do so many of them,
you just kind of
you just do it. So you do want some preload on these bearings. Any high-speed bearing has preload on it. The higher the speed of the bearing, the more preload. That's where you get into some of these torque specs, because there's some engineer somewhere that's a lot smarter than I am. But
what's preload?
Preload is basically the torque on the bearings, the tension that holds them. You don't want any slack in these bearings.
Oh, okay.
Because any slack in these bearings allows the hub to move, which causes the seal to start leaking, which is where we were at when we started.
Yeah.
So, also, as you tighten this up, this style nut I showed you, this locking nut, you'll have to turn it a little at a time when you get it where you want it, and get these fingers to lock. This one's not locked in yet. I'm probably gonna get a little pick and push it over to make it lock. This one over here, it's snapped in place. So, but make sure those are locked when you go back together. All right, we've already got that one together. We'll show you here. We've got this little roller that rolls on the S-cam. It has a wire clip. Goes in this little hole here. So this just sets in that groove. Well, don't drop it, but you squeeze that together and push it around. It'll snap in, and that holds the roller in place. This little keeper goes in this hole here, and what that will do is gives this spring here a place to hook. You stick it in, hold it in place, tap it in just like that. Now we're going to take these two shoes, hook them together just like that, carry them over here to the truck. set this top shoe in place. And now, some of you may fall out with me. There's 2 or 3 ways to do this. This is the way I do it. If you got a better way or way you prefer it better, by all means, do what you like. All right. So this shoe sets on an anchor point in the back. I'm going to set the rear shoe very close to that anchor point. It won't exactly line up, obviously, right now. I just hook a pry bar through into that anchor pin that we drove in and press down and push that shoe right in place. We've put a bead of silicone around this. A lot of times they have an O-ring or a gasket. I never have. I mean, I like the O-ring style, but if it don't have a gasket, I just put silicone on it, because to me it's not worth the trip to town to get a gasket. So we put the good RTV in it and we let that ride. Sometimes it's a little tricky to line up the splines on the axle. Plus you don't want to smear your silicone everywhere if you don't have to. So. On this particular hub, International is good for this. It says right here on top, oil fill. And what we have here is just a regular bolt, and it goes in that hole. This is a stud with a nut that's pulled out. As you can see, these other nuts are here, but this bolt goes in that hole. It's there for a reason. When we put this back together, or before we completely finish, we'll pump a few pumps of gear oil in there so that those bearings aren't running dry as you first take off. It just helps out. Also, and I didn't do it, and you can crucify me for it later or whatever, but you can roll that to the bottom, take that bolt out. All the oil will drain out of this hub, out of that bolt hole before you take the axle out, but I'm so used to making a mess, I just knock it loose and worry about it later. I'm sure there's torque specs for this too, but we're just going to go with what they call German specs. We're going to tighten it up good and tight. So I don't think this little 1/2-inch impact's going to break these 3/4 bolts.
So that oil that's in that hub is sealed off from the...
No, it all runs together.
Oh, okay.
All the oil in the differential runs together. All this it does is it just helps you as you start out, not to start out with a dry bearing.
Just when you're going back together with it?
Yeah, just when you're going back together with it, because otherwise the oil level inside the axle, as you drive down the road and you know the elevation changes, the oil will run from side to side, and it's actually it's supposed to be up in the tube high enough that a little bit of oil runs into the bearings, so it maintains a certain oil level inside. But this just helps you when you first start out. You know, you're not running a dry bearing. So yeah, pumping another lick or two. Of course, as you can see, it's kind of hard to keep it in there. I'd say that's good. We've got 2 or 3 good pumps in there, so like I said, that's enough that when you first take off, you're not running a dry bearing, and that's all you're after. We talked about earlier, off camera, we cleaned this brake drum up, cleaned the grease out the inside of it. That way, well, for one, we don't want to saturate these new shoes, and for two, hot gear oil is probably one of the worst smelling things that I've ever smelled in my life, so we try to steer away from that all we can. Don't ever forget to index your valve stems. It's real fun when you get the tires back on, you can't put air in.
Are these German? What did you say? German tattoo?
German specs, yeah, Guden type. You actually gotta be careful with these. You'll break the studs. Are not very big. You can break one. It's also not a good feeling for the wheel to pass you when you're going down the road. So. Alright, can you see that?
Yep.
Don't ever forget when you do a repair like this to top the oil level off in the differential. Earlier I was talking about the oil level in the axles, and you can kind of see here that the plug is a little bit higher than the bottom of the axle tube, which allows the oil to run into the bearings. Most likely these are just take a 1/2 inch drive ratchet. Sometimes you got to take a screwdriver and dig some gunk out of them, but looks like we might get lucky this time. And this is just as simple as fill it up till it runs out of the hole and put the plug back in. Alright, that's good.
Alright, that finishes up this little project, getting that, I ended up getting a new brake put on that side. Got the tire fixed, which was, I thought was going to be a disaster this morning, which actually turned out to be a pretty good day. Got to meet Lucas, and so I found me a diesel mechanic, heavy equipment mechanic now, and he's a Christian, and he's a preacher, so he's probably a pretty good fella. But we got this job done today. Generally, so in closing the videos, I'll give some scripture and a message, but I just think it's appropriate today for Lucas to do that. And what's your most important tool in your truck, Lucas?
Well, let me go get it and show it to you. This right here is the most important tool that I carry with me every day. And of course, I'm a preacher, but I like the way my pastor says it. I believe every word in this Bible, from the "thee" right here on the front to the maps in the back. This is the way I want to live my life. I try to live my life daily for God. And the Lord puts us together with people. We've made a friendship today. I run into him here, and not only did we get to fix this truck, but we've got to talk about God a little bit, and that lightens my day. That's what it's all about for me. McLean here is my helper. He's still in high school. He helps me in the evenings and helps me on the weekends. Wonderful help, and he's a good Christian boy, but he's got I guess a bit of an interesting testimony I want to say. I've always thought he was a good boy, but I kind of, there were some things happened here in the very recent past that I was kind of got blindsided by, but I'm gonna let him tell you about it.
Well, Lucas asked me to share my testimony, so here I am. I was about 10 years old. I was going to Bible school, and preacher said, repeat after me if you want to be saved, and say this little prayer here. I mean, I didn't know what it meant, so I said it and acted like I got saved. Went on for 7 years. I'm 17 now, so I went on for about 7 years acting like I was saved. I'd lie to everybody. I'd play gospel music. I was always around preachers. I worked around them and stuff, and I didn't want them to know I wasn't a Christian. But me and my girlfriend, we had a little breakup, and I always went to church with her just because I wanted to see her. I didn't go for the Lord, but I wanted to go see her. So we broke up, and I was angry at everybody, and God, he just told me, he's like, what are you gonna do now? I couldn't go see her. I'd have to go for the Lord now if I was going. So everybody's telling me to pray, so I prayed all day that day. It works for everybody else, it seems like, so I was gonna try it, and I prayed all day, and God finally told me. He said John 3. So let me find John 3 here. In verse 3 it said, Jesus answered and said unto him, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. In verse 5 it says, Jesus answered, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, born of water and of the Spirit, he cannot enter the kingdom of God. It was it was Saturday that day, or when I read that, and that night I couldn't sleep. I was praying to God, telling him to let me live till tomorrow and I'd get saved, and sure enough, I got saved that Sunday. It's been the best 2 weeks of my life, and it's been great, and God, he chose us. We just have to choose him, and that's Lucas. You got anything to say?
He's crying like I am.
I wanted y'all to hear that. That's a powerful testimony. You know, oftentimes I've been in church settings where, you know, a preacher or somebody does say, you know, they'll get up and say this very little generic prayer, you know, and then they'll ask, you know, to raise your hand if you said that or something, and you know, it's not about repeat after me. It's about getting down and meaning and knowing what you're praying and asking the Lord to come into your heart, and it's a life change. You know, I've heard some people say that they're not real sure if they've got saved, but I want to tell you, if you're saved, you know it. If you doubt it, if you're not real sure, if you're not saved, you need to get into the Word and you need to pray about it, because there's a good chance that you're not saved. It's something that you should know, You know, there's an eternal salvation, there's heaven to gain, and there's hell to shun. And I don't know about any of y'all, but I look forward to being with Jesus. I look forward to walking the streets of gold and seeing the pearly gates. But, you know, all of that beauty, it's not going to mean anything, really, when we get there. You know, we're standing on gravel right now, you know, and it's just old rocks. It don't mean a whole lot. It's good to not be standing in the mud, but, you know, and if you think about it in a sense, when we get to heaven, we're going to be walking around on gold. And I know that seems like a whole lot down here on earth, but, you know, that's one of the most valuable things here on earth is gold, but that's going to be under our feet when we get to heaven. What's really going to matter is that we're going to be with the Father, and we're going to be with the one that He sent to save us. That's what it's about.
All right, well, you heard it. What a testimony from McLean. You know, he professed there that he had a form of godliness but wasn't saved. I'm afraid there's a lot of people like that today. And his own testimony just shines a light for you if you're watching. McLean even gave you the scripture to go to. So that's a place that you can start and start this journey with Christ. Thank you for watching. If you like the videos, please give us a big old fat thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. And as I've said many times before, I enjoy the interaction with comments, questions, and just encouraging words that you send me through these videos. So God bless and thanks for watching.